Hello, welcome to Roughly Estimated, where today we're going to be examining the burning question of just when it is that you can go from sprinting to puking in a bucket. And the question really is that this man here owns the world record for the 100 metres and the 200 metres. And he's fourth in the world for the 300 metres, best times ever. But then, of course, so at some point he loses. He loses to the current 300 world record meter holder, Tebogo, who owns it with 30.69. Of course, 300 meters is barely ever run. So this is certainly no criticism of Bolt. It's more to the point that Tebogo owns the 300 meter world record. Niekerk owns the 400 meter world record. And then David Rudisha owns the 800 meter world record. So at what point does Bolt go from being the fastest man in the world to the second fastest man in the world to the third fastest man in the world, etc.? And so what we've done to prove a point here, who knows what point it is, we've set up a race so we can see when Bolt goes from this glorious effort in the 200 at Berlin in 2009 with 19.19 seconds to this, vomiting at the side of the track into a bucket as others managed to overtake him. Basically, it's a question of sprint endurance and a bit of fun with numbers to see how this race would go down. So we've got the very best track here and the very best buckets, and we've got Bolt, owner of the 100 metre and 200 metre world records, 9.58, 19.19. Tebogo, 30.67 at the 300 metres. Niekerk, 43.03 seconds in Rio in 2016. And Rudisha, who owns practically all of the top times in the 800 metres, is the only man under 1 minute 41 seconds with 1 minute 40.91 seconds. So at what point does Bolt lose it? Get taken over by Tebogo? Get taken over by Niekerk? Get taken over by Rudisha? Let's take a look. So firstly, these are the split times and the world records I just mentioned. So we have the 9.58, the 19.19, the 30.69, the 43.03, and the 100.91 seconds Rudisha's 800 metres. There's also some splits here. Some are accurate and some are made up. Let's not differentiate. So we've got Bolt, Tebogo, Niekerk, Rudisha. So the question is, where does the lead change hands? And where do they get the bucket? Oh! So we're going to start off with it on a curve, and you just have to ignore that. This race is otherwise difficult to set up. We've got a curve to start with, just like the 800 metres. So we're going to, do some mild adjustments for times or not, because it's all very rough anyway. So we start the race off, and out of the blocks for the first 100 metres, Bolt storms round. There you go, slight adjustment, 9.6 seconds. An unrealistic curve. Tebogo, 9.95 seconds. He has run as quick as 9.86 in the 100 metres. But we've got him on the way to his 300 here. Niekerk on the way to his 400 metre world record, around 10.7. And Rudisha, we estimate 11.5 seconds. So Rudisha is languishing 20 metres behind at this point. Flowing action. Niekerk, 10.5 metres behind. Tebogo going pretty much all out. Not quite. 2 metres behind. And Bolt, who's going like a train at this point, is the leader. And so now we move it forward to the 200 metres. Bolt's covered the distance in 1919. Tebogo, 19.19. Now he is the 200 metre Olympic reigning champion, and in that race he ran the 19.4s, seeing off Bednarik and seeing off Noah Lyles. So it's a little bit ungenerous to Tebogo there, but he's 4 metres behind for the purposes of roughly estimated in this race. Niekerk He ran 20.5 seconds. It was actually a 9.8 second 100-meter split that he did in that 400 meters, that 100 to 200 gap. And he is nearly 13 meters behind. Rudisha slipping further behind at 36 meters behind and 23.5 seconds as he would round the bend for 200 meters. So at 220 meters, Bolt loses his shirt. Tebogo starts to creep ahead. The lactic acid has built up. Tebogo's superior stamina in sprinting has taken hold. And Tebogo takes Bolt at the 220 meter mark, meaning Tebogo is our 220 meter champion. Van Niekerk is on his way to his 400 time. I've definitely got Tebogo trying hard for his 300, probably a little bit ahead of schedule here. So somewhere around 220 meters, Tebogo would overtake Bolt is what I contest. And Rudisha now 37 meters behind. So think of that. Rudisha is nowhere to be seen. He's not even in the camera shot. Rudisha is languishing along. People are wondering why he's in the race. Van Niekerk, 10 meters behind, flowing, not out of it. Now at 300 meters, Bolt gets the bucket. That's a little bit ungenerous to Bolt. I was so keen to put a bucket in. Bolt, I've got him in the bucket there. I don't think that's true. Bolt actually owns the 4th fastest time ever in the 300 meters. Let's just take a quick look at that. So these are the top times ever in the rarely run 300 meters. We've got Tebogo, Van Niekerk, Michael Johnson with 30.85, then Bolt 30.97. So interestingly, if you mark these things, only 4 men ever under 31 seconds. Then we get Van Niekerk again, and then a trio from Merit. And there's another from Tebogo there, another from Merit, Johnson. So yeah, just a rarely run race, but just very interesting to see that data. So if we come back to the 300 meter mark, what's interesting here, Rudisha is now 41 meters behind. So they're still gaining on him. Rudisha is at the 300 meter mark, 41 meters behind. Tebogo is our winner and our leader at 300 meters. And Bolt, because now Van Niekerk, if you look, Van Niekerk actually does have a faster 300 meter time, but I've got Van Niekerk's splits. So Van Niekerk is staying the course for his 400 meters, whereas admittedly I've had Tebogo moving about the place a little bit. So, but in this version of the race, Tebogo wins at 300 meters. Van Niekerk is third, and Bolt is second, 2 meters behind Van Niekerk, 3 meters behind. So now we look for the next bucket point, and you can see poor old Tebogo here. He's laid out on the stretcher. The bucket's coming out. Bolt's filled up a second bucket here. At 380 meters, Van Niekerk takes the lead, and Tebogo is just falling behind there. Bolt is now languishing 5 meters behind. It takes a long time to fill a bucket, and Rudisha is just falling ever further behind. Buckets of sick to avoid. Rudisha at 380 meters was 47.9 seconds. Still an amazing time. But of course, we've got the elite of the elite ahead of him. And now at 400 meters, Van Niekerk is in charge. Large is in charge, 43.03. He's the leader. Tebogo, 44.2, couple of meters behind. Bolt, 5 meters behind. Rudisha, 59. Now, that was his split. 50.5 seconds, 59 meters behind. So you've got Rudisha, obviously not to scale. I remind you, didn't have time to do this. To scale would be here, here, 60 meters behind. And these guys are going to now crash and stagger and wobble, and I'm sure we could produce an AI video of that. I've done some AI videos of sprinters and they don't look good. So that's what they might look like. So they're wobbling all over the place now, and Rudisha starts to flow. Van Niekerk gets the bucket. Tebogo's laid out on his second or third bucket. Bolt, they can't even get another bucket for him. So I've got it finishing this 800 metres with Van Niekerk 4 seconds behind. Now, I have no idea if that's right or not. I just don't understand at what point the energy levels completely blow out. I think that's probably possible. I don't know if that's possible actually, because 1 minute 44 seconds is a very credible time indeed. So I'm thinking now I ought to adjust this, that he would be 110. Bolt, I've got 110. That's 1 minute 50. 5 meters behind. 5 meters behind the winner. Is that right? 5 meters behind? Let me see. 10 meters a second? No. So he's 10 seconds behind. I think there's a lot more. I think that's more like, that should say 50 meters behind. That's right, because Van Niekerk is 25 meters behind. Bolt should say 50 meters behind, and Tebogo is 40 meters behind. I will correct that sometime in the future. So there we have it. We have where they get the bucket, and it seems to me that Bolt is the 220 meter champion, Tebogo the 300 meter champion, Van Niekerk the 400 meter champion, and somewhere between 500 and 700 meters, Rudisha takes over the staggering, at this point, practical corpses of all three of them, as they've all burnt through their energy stores and they just don't have another ounce in them, to win and leave them in his dust, and they're walking and doubled over. So there we go. That's how it would work out, according to me, according to the data, according to Grok. Kind of a fun thing to think about. Thanks very much. This was roughly estimated.